Fox host Jeanine Pirro is basically back to her old tricks, going after immigrants, migrants at the border, and blaming, of course, the Democrats for the migrant crisis. Now, immigration attorney David Leopold is going to go on the show, and he's a little bit tired of Pirro putting out false information and false narratives. And so he's going to do something that a little controversial. He's going to go on her show. He's going to challenge her on this. And I say this as a controversial opinion because there's a lot of people that say, well, why is he even going on that show? Why are they even going on Fox News in the first place? Well, I'm going to make an argument, I think, in favor of this. But first, let me show you a first part of this segment where they get into a disagreement. Take a look.
You know, one thing that the Trump administration showed us, that with its cruelty and with its outlandish treatment of children, with its kidnapping of kids at the borders, with its separation, with its treatment of people, of humanity, of kids, they're still coming, Jeanine. And why are they still coming? They're coming because this is not a Biden issue. This is something that's been going on in ebbs and flows for decades. And in fact, if you want to talk about a surge at the border.
David, what's been going on in ebbs and flows? David, what's ebbs and flows? What are you saying?
Jeanine, take a look at 2019. You know, everybody's screaming on your show tonight about a surge at the border, but in 2019, there was 150,000 people that came in, much more than what we have today under Joe Biden.
David, you're wrong on the facts. The 100,000 in February this year is the highest number in 15 years. All right, that is a fact. And if you want to go through the cages, I want you to look at a picture of a cage. Just bear with me. Answer my question. This cage with children in it, the date is 2014. That cage was built and used during Obama administration. Obama was putting the kids in cages. And your numbers are wrong, too. That the highest number is because Biden is sending them in.
All right. For one, I love how suddenly now, when Biden's in office, now Republicans care about the kids in cages. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of liberals that no longer care about the kids in cages. It's kind of a strange thing it's a very strange phenomenon. I myself have cared about the kids in cages, whether it happened under Obama, which it did happen, albeit much less than Donald Trump. And I care about it still under Biden, which is still happening, by the way, still less than Donald Trump, without the, whole family separation policy. It's not happening in the United States. It is happening in Mexico, and there is a surge happening. And so is she right to point that out? She's right to point out that there's a surge happening. She is wrong on the facts, though. In fact, what she said, it's the highest number in 15 years. No, that's wrong. In fact, 150,000 people were detained in May of 2019 under Trump, according to Customs and Border Protection statistics. In fact, 2019 saw 4 months where the number of detained migrants surged above 100,000. Now, there's a reason for that, and it was Donald Trump's no tolerance policy. Instead of turning them away at the border, which is what we're currently doing now, the United States is saying, don't come here, turn around, go. Donald Trump, in his way to try to deter, which, as Leopold points out, did not actually work, they ended up taking in many more migrants and putting them in the cages. And so, look, immigration right now, the U.S. immigration system is absolute dog shit. It's really bad. It's bad under Democrats. It's bad. It's worse under Republicans, but it's still bad. Again, right now, we have a situation where there is a surge in migrants coming over, and these migrants don't have any places to go. And so the Biden administration has went and hired one of the private, I think it was a private prison corporation, one of these corporations that had gotten itself in trouble for having bad facilities, managing terrible facilities with terrible conditions. But they have hired them on to open a facility that, again, had closed under the Trump administration with such terrible conditions. So, again, this is not good. This is bad. This is bad for Trump. This was bad under Trump. It's also bad under Biden, was bad under Obama. So the situation is complicated. Now, each side seems to think, no, it's the fault of the other side. I hate the both sides because really it prevents us from solving the problem. And we do need to solve the problem. But nonetheless, she goes and she's like, look at the cages. Look at the cages. You didn't care under Trump. Why? Because you're a political hack. That's what it is. If you're not calling it out now, if you were calling it out under Trump and you're not calling it out under Biden, then you're a political hack. That goes for people on MSNBC. That also goes for the people who are on Fox News. If you're not calling it, if you're not being honest about the situation, you're a political hack. Right now, again, it is bad, and there's no excuses to that. This is very absolutely true. So now, here's the thing. They want Jeanine Pirro is going on this narrative because she wants to paint Trump and his policies as effective, right, at stopping immigration. But that's not effective. He did not stop immigration. In fact, walls don't stop immigration. Walls don't work. Telling people that they will be detained and possibly separated at the border also doesn't work. Why? Because from the migrants' perspective, at least they won't be murdered. And that's the issue here. You have to understand why the immigration is happening in the first place. It is driven by the fact that many people in Central America are literally fleeing for their lives. That's why deterrence doesn't work. Okay, if you want lower levels of immigration, and let me be clear about my position here, I don't want lower levels of immigration. I actually want to encourage more immigration to this country. Why? Because I think it is a net benefit, and there are studies that back me up here, that immigration is a net benefit to this country. But if you are on the side of wanting lower immigration, especially from specifically Central America, especially when it comes to unaccompanied minors, which is an issue. I definitely don't want families to have to send their children away to the United States because they fear that those children will be murdered in the streets by the drug cartels. I don't want that. I do want immigration, but I want people to come into this country because, hey, this is the land of opportunity. It's it's the shining city on the hill, all that wonderful stuff. I don't want it because you feel like in your homeland that you are going to get freaking murdered. And that's the problem. And that, by the way, is also our fault. In fact, what we've been doing is wrong. Okay? What we've been doing here is doing the drug war. The drug war has actually emboldened and empowered the cartels. The people in America. And the reason I say, again, partly our fault is because, first of all, who's demanding the drugs? We are. People in America are demanding the drugs. So the cartels have risen to fill that demand. And then we launched this war on drugs. So now the area is flooded with weapons, with violence, and there are people that want to get out. And so they come to Mexico, they come to America. And then, of course, we say, well, we don't have any room for you. Or, well, I guess we've got room in these private prisons, to which now these companies make money off housing these immigrants. And it's a problem. It's a problem all over. Our immigration system is an absolute fucking mess and a complete and utter disaster. We need to fix that. All right. We also need to stop destabilizing governments in the region as well. So if we actually do a couple of those things, we would actually curb immigration as a result of violence and poverty, which has been driving this particular wave of immigration. OK, but again, Fox News, Jeanine Pirro, they like this. Why? Why do they like immigrate? Why do they like this? This immigration crisis at the border? Because it's good red meat. That's really what it is. Conservatives froth at the mouth. Okay, they love this. They absolutely love this. Nothing scares the Fox News audience more than a brown person coming to the border. it's true. So they've got their programming all set up for when there is a migrant caravan, or when there's a surge in immigration or unaccompanied minors, what we see here. So now the question here is, is going on Fox News effective? Is it okay to go on Fox News if you're going to challenge the Fox News host? And by the way, before we get to answer that question, I've got one more video.
Jeanine, just because you say my numbers are wrong doesn't mean they're wrong. And you want to talk about
no,
cruelty.
they're facts. These are the facts.
They're not facts. I mean, very few things that I hear in this show tonight have been facts. You said this evening that the border was open.
Well, David, let me ask you something.
That was it. That was just fun. I like the pushback. I do enjoy the pushback. Now, the thing about this is that the pushback, while it's fun, are you going to sway a whole lot of people? Not necessarily. No. But if you can get through to a couple of them with a good argument, I actually do think that's time well spent. For example, when Bernie Sanders did a Fox Town Hall, or when Kyle Kulinski went on Fox News for his first and last time to make a compelling argument for lefty policy. That was good. And the reason that I like this and that I think it's effective is because they never seem to know what to do about it. Because generally when Fox News brings on a so-called liberal, it's to where, it basically that person usually agrees with them or ends up being a punching bag. And they don't push back and they don't call them out. Now, we've seen some of that with some people going on Tucker Carlson and basically agreeing with their points and not pushing back or calling them out. That's unfortunate. That's why understandably people can make that argument that, oh, you shouldn't go on Fox News. Yeah, when that happens, because that is ultimately detrimental when it comes to pushing leftist policy. But when you go on and you're like this guy who, look, again, if you watch the whole segment, there is a point that I didn't like. It's where he makes a good point, but also it feels like it's a pivot where he's like, hey, look, here's what this whole thing is about. The Biden COVID relief bill. Okay. And she's like, what does that have to do with anything? And he was making the point that all this immigration stuff is a distraction, but he makes it in a pretty bad way. He doesn't make it, I think, very effectively. But generally, he's correct. But optically, it didn't look quite as good as the earlier moments in this discussion. So, if you're going to go on Fox News, you got to you got to be ready with your argument, and you got to present it with a certain amount of gravitas in order to sway people. Because again, conservatives generally only respect strength. And in this case, Jeanine Pirro did show a lot of strength, even though he was absolutely correct on the arguments and did push back on her effectively in some cases. Again, if you're going to go on Fox, you got to be strong. You got to have the facts. You got to make your case, and you got to push back. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.